Reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. On August 14th, Srila Prabhupada observed Janmashtami, the birthday of Lord Krishna. On the next day, Prabhupada's own 75th birthday, a paperback book of collected homages by his disciples arrived. Many of the Vyasa Puja homages praised Srila Prabhupada for his extensive travelling to deliver fallen souls all over the world and for the vast scope of his merciful preaching. 75th, this must have been in 1971. 1971. This year you have been traveling, this is one of the offerings. This year you've been traveling to India, personally speaking and managing ISKCON and showing us the meaning of Acharya by example. And now you are traveling and inspiring the devotees and centers in the US and Europe. At the Vyasa Puja time, we, your intimate children, are gathered at your lotus feet to tell you our feelings as best we can. By your blessing, we can go forth from this Vyasa Puja gathering of 1971 and all devotees together as one great ISKCON without faction, truly perform the work with our thoughts, words, and deeds. Let us go and distribute this literature of Srila Prabhupada's Krishna message, kindly delivered to the Western countries. Let us cooperate without ill feelings amongst ourselves. Let us very strictly observe all the regular principles and stay as pure representatives. Let us celebrate pure Sankirtan and magazine distribution to please you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All your disciples pray that you will remain in our presence for many years to come. And by our cooperation, you will be able to spend time writing volumes of Bhagavatam while we carry on the program and mission of your Guru Maharaj. Prabhupada's ill health continued. I was sick for 4 or 5 days. Now I am a little better, but the disease is prolonging in a different way. I cannot sleep at night more than 2 hours, and during the day, sometimes I am feeling some dizziness. Otherwise, everything is all right. I'm chanting Hare Krishna as usual and writing my books regularly. Sham Sundar. Aravinda and I were sleeping right outside of Prabhupada's room. I was on a lower bunk bed and I heard Sham Sundar. It was a really urgent sound and I woke up so hard that I hit my head on the bunk above. I ran into Prabhupada's room. As I was opening the door, he collapsed in the doorway. I caught him. He felt so light, like a little doll, and his face was grey. I took him over to his bed and thought, oh my God, what's going on? He was shivering. I turned the electric heater way up and put it next to his bed. I covered him with a lot of blankets and waited. He was just still. His eyes were closed. Finally he said, Sham Sundar, go get me some black pepper. He described how to make a black pepper paste. Rub it on my forehead, he said. So I ran down to the kitchen and prepared it and came up and put it on his forehead. I asked him, what's wrong? I don't believe he made a response. He closed his eyes, appeared to be asleep. I slept there by him on the floor for a while. At some point in the night, he said, you may go back to your room. I'll be all right. He stayed in bed until about 8 or 9 o'clock in the next morning. And when he was just completely well, like nothing, and then he was completely well, just like nothing had happened. His spirit was so strong that although he had encountered devastating blows to his body, he had come right out of it. I could tell it wasn't a physical event. He had made a full recovery from what must have been something close to death. We don't know exactly. But black pepper paste. Ooh. A burning on the head. Prabhupada knew he was like a pharmacist or something like that. So he said, put the black pepper paste. One day while meeting with an Indian man, a Mr. R.B. Pandya from Mombasa, East Africa, Prabhupada mentioned his illness. Mr. Pandya said he owned a house on the ocean at Mombasa, where it was always sunny and warm, with pleasant sea breezes. A perfect place for Prabhupada to recover his health. Mr. Pandya invited Prabhupada to go and live there as long as he liked. Taking the offer seriously, Prabhupada began to think of going to Africa, not only for health, but for preaching. 3 months ago, he had sent Brahmananda Swami and Jaganivas to East Africa. So a visit there would encourage them as well, as enable Prabhupada to work personally in expanding the Krishna consciousness movement on the African continent. Prabhupada sent Bhavananda and Narayana from London to Mombasa to see if it would really be possible for him to stay there at Mr. Pandya, as Mr. Pandya had suggested. When Bhavananda and Narayana arrived, Brahmananda Swami, who had been struggling in East Africa with only one assistant, was delighted to see them and to hear that Prabhupada was coming soon. Previously, Brahmananda Swami had been preaching in Florida, and Prabhupada had written him to go to Pakistan. Immediately he had gone, along with one assistant, Jaganivas, flying to Paris and then taking the Orient Express through Eastern Europe. On hearing that war fever was building in Pakistan, Prabhupada had sent him a second letter, to Brahmananda Swami in Florida, advising him not to go to Pakistan. Brahmananda Swami had never received the letter. En route to Pakistan, while holding public kirtan in Turkey, Brahmananda and Jaganivas had been arrested and detained for several days on suspicion of being Christian missionaries. Finally, Brahmananda and Jaganivas had arrived in Pakistan, where students had spit at them, accusing them of being spies, threatened them and called them names. Several times people on the street had rubbed the Vaishnav tilak off the devotees' foreheads and warned them not to show themselves in public or they would be stabbed. Local Hindus had warned the devotees to leave as soon as possible, and so they had reluctantly decided to go to Bombay to see Prabhupada. Meanwhile, in Bombay, Prabhupada had read in an Indian newspaper that Pakistani soldiers in Dhaka had killed 4 Hare Krishna missionaries. I'm very much anxious to know about Brahmananda, Prabhupada had written. The day has been full of anxiety with this bad news and still is going on. Prabhupada had heard that Brahmananda Swami had actually arrived in Bombay. He had asked to see him at once. Like a father recovering his lost child, Prabhupada had embraced him. You risked your life just on my order, Prabhupada had said. After some days, Prabhupada had told Brahmananda Swami, you should go to Africa. If you go, then we will be on all continents. Now, after preaching in Africa, Brahmananda Swami eagerly awaited the visit of his beloved spiritual master. So, very interesting piece of information there, isn't it? Take risks on behalf of Prabhupada. But in those days, especially the early devotees, because there were so few, Prabhupada was very much interested in expanding his movement as quickly as possible, because as we read, he was not in good health the whole time. Even on his boat travel to America, he suffered 2 heart attacks. So even going there, Krishna had put him through the test so many times, but somehow or other Prabhupada remained enthusiastic in his Krishna consciousness, even in the face of all these bodily ailments and sufferings. Now in 71, so it seems that 71 and all along, I remember a little later on, also we were making prayers for Prabhupada to help him recover from his illness. So he was, the whole time he was spreading the Krishna consciousness, it seemed he was struggling through ill health, and some very severe, as we just read. And so because he was experiencing this, and also he was very elderly, already in 71 he was 75, 1971 he was 75. He was using, in 71 there was a growing number of devotees, but especially leading the older devotees were used by Prabhupada quite frequently to just go, almost at the drop of a hat. He'd send a letter, now go, Brahmananda was in Florida, and then now you have to go to Pakistan. Gurudas had told me that one time he and was it he and Jamuna, his wife? Yeah, I think the 2 of them, they were on the train with Prabhupada, and the train just pulled into a station and it stayed there for a little time. And then Prabhupada just said to him, get down here. They were traveling with Prabhupada. Said, get down here. This is a very good city. I forget the name of the city that was. But get down here and I'll give you one contact. There's one nice gentleman here, and you go see him and try to establish something in this city. I forget which city it was. But just all of a sudden, Prabhupada would do things like that. And those devotees also, they were those types of devotees that needed continuous challenges. So they were just riding on the train. Can you imagine riding on the train, Prabhupada, in a foreign country? To them, India was a foreign country. And so get down here. Just get down. Here's a contact. Go see this man. And so they did. And apparently they cultivated the Krishna consciousness there. That was Gurudas. Now Brahmananda, he's go to Pakistan, which is of course a big Muslim country. And at that time also, that's 71. Yeah, there was the big war between Pakistan and India. and it went for some time. And so when Brahmananda didn't get the second letter, and don't go there now, because Prabhupada had read that there was war, there was a lot of trouble starting. And so look at what happened to them. They went there, they got spat at. They come and then people were threatening to kill them. And so they somehow or other, Prabhupada had read there was a false report that they were killed. 4 Hare Krishna devotees were killed in Pakistan. So some of these countries are very, very dangerous, and but spreading Krishna consciousness, we have to take some risk, but not too much risk. Indeed, I remember there were 2 sannyasis at the time, Paramahansa and Parvachikacharya. Prabhupada instructed them to go to Iran. So they went to Iran, and so a very heavy Islamic country. And so they went there, and they didn't dress themselves as sannyas, they just in ordinary clothes, being a Muslim country. And they went there and they started to introduce Krishna consciousness through advertising yoga. Both of them were adept at practicing yoga and the different asanas and pranayama and all this. And so they went there and advertised yoga, and then gradually they would bring in the chanting. So very indirectly, very subtly, they were trying to introduce the Krishna consciousness, and they were gaining some success amongst the higher circles of people in Iran. But then there was a war that broke out between Iran and Iraq, and it went on, and people were getting all worked up. And they wrote to Prabhupada. We were initially a meeting with some success, but now it's very difficult because people are very angry here with the other one country, the other country with the other one. And so they're very angry, and it's difficult to spread the Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada, I always remember this, Prabhupada wrote back a letter, said that, well, yes, when people are too angry, it is very difficult for them to listen to the Krishna conscious message. Therefore, the preacher has to use his intelligence and discrimination, go to the area which is more favorable. There are so many areas of the world. If one area is not very favorable and is a very dangerous area, then the preacher can go to a different area. So Prabhupada was very pragmatic, very common sense. When it's too dangerous, then don't unnecessarily risk your life. There's so many areas of the world, especially when there's war outbreak, and this with the Muslim country, and just like in so many countries, devotees have to be very careful how they present themselves, especially foreigners, even locals, but especially foreigners. If you're a foreigner, just like they stopped off and did kirtan in Turkey, but you can't be a foreigner and just start kirtan. Maybe in America or someplace, but generally, if you're going on some type of visa, some tourist visa, you can't just do missionary activity. They saw it as they thought they were Christians, but maybe they were just in plain clothes. But I doubt probably everyone was used to dress in devotee clothes in those days. But Turkey's also not so hard-line Muslim country, but still Muslim country. So anyway, they were there and they arrested them because they came through on, I don't know, maybe devotees have had that problem before. They go through on a tourist visa. Just even recently, Indra Maharaj was detained, even though he had the proper permissions, and Bhakti Vikash Maharaj was in Russia, and probably sure a few devotees have been detained even recently because they're going on tourist visas, and then they're being advertised. Unbeknownst to them, they're being advertised on social media as coming and giving the classes and lectures and that. And then it's come to the attention of the authorities, and they detained them and deported them out. And generally, you get a blacklist for 5 years or something like that. Can't come back here. So we have to be very careful. Even Indra Maharaj had all the proper permissions, everything like that. He was sponsored. Somehow or other, they arrested him anyway in Russia. So he was detained, and then he's got a ban on him for 5 years over there. So these are the risks you take. These are the risks you take when you're trying to spread Krishna consciousness. But you have to use the common sense in doing it in such a way that there's not undue danger. And there's many places in the world we can go to spread the Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada Leela Mrita Ki Jai. Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 2 and 3. Oh, well, what happened to number 1? Oh, yesterday. Okay, so this one, this verse doesn't have any meter to it, so I'll just read through it. Tatrapi Priyavrata Charana Parikatai Saptabi Sapta Sindava Ukalta Dhyata Etasya Sapta Dvipa Vishesha Vikalpa Svaya Bhagavan Kalu Suchita Etat Iva Kilam Mahammanato Lakshanatas Chasavam Vijigasami. Translation. My dear Lord, the rolling wheels of Maharaj Priyavrata's chariot created 7 ditches in which the 7 oceans came into existence. Because of these 7 oceans, Bhumandala is divided into 7 islands. You have given a very general description of their measurement, names and characteristics. Now I wish to know of them in detail. Kindly fulfill my desire. There's no purport there. Text 3. When the mind is fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his external feature made of the material modes of nature, the gross universal form, it is brought to the platform of pure goodness. In that transcendental position, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, who in his subtler form is self-effulgent and beyond the modes of nature. Oh my Lord, please describe vividly how that form which covers the entire universe is perceived. Purport. Maharaj Parikshit had already been advised by his spiritual master Sukadeva Goswami to think of the universal form of the Lord, and therefore, following the advice of his spiritual master, he continuously thought of that form. The universal form is certainly material because everything is an expansion of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ultimately nothing is material. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj's mind was saturated with spiritual consciousness. Srila Rupa Goswami has stated, Prapanchikataya buddhya hari sambandhi vastuna mumukshubi parityago varagyam palgo katyate. Everything, even that which is material, is connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur translates this verse as follows. Hari sevaya yaha haya anukula vishaya baliya tahara tyagi haya bula. One should not give up anything connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking it material or enjoyable for the material senses. Even the senses, when purified, are spiritual. When Maharaj Parikshit was thinking of the universal form of the Lord, his mind was certainly situated on the transcendental platform. Therefore, although he might not have had any reason to be concerned with detailed information of the universe, he was thinking of it in relationship with the Supreme Lord, and therefore such geographical knowledge was not material but transcendental. Elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.20, Narada Muni has said, Idam hi vishvam bhagavan ivetaraha. The entire universe is also the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although it appears different from him. Therefore, although Parikshit Maharaj had no need for geographical knowledge of this universe, that knowledge was also spiritual and transcendental because he was thinking of the entire universe as an expansion of the energy of the Lord. In our preaching work also, we deal with so much property and money and so many books bought and sold, but because these dealings all pertain to the Krishna consciousness movement, they should never be considered material. That one is absorbed in thoughts of such management does not mean that he's outside of Krishna consciousness. If one rigidly observes the regulative principle of chanting 16 rounds of the Maha Mantra every day, his dealings with the material world for the sake of spreading the Krishna consciousness movement are not different from the spiritual cultivation of Krishna consciousness. So, Hare Krishna. So we're reading in this chapter description of the Jambudweep, which started in the beginning of the chapter, and all the different, and starting, of course, here, I was mentioned in yesterday's verse, the Bhumandala, and how Prabhupada mentioned about the Gayatri mantra and the first Om Bhu Bhuva Sva, and the three realms, the three general categories of the universe. Om, of course, it indicates the supreme transcendence, Krishna, and Om Bhu Bhuva Sva. Bhu means Bhu Mandala, earth realm, and Bhuva, above the earth realm, which is the Bhutas, and which is the Gandharvas and Siddhas, and so on and so forth. So that is another realm, and then there's Svarga, Om Bhuva, and then Svarga. So these are the three different realms. Om Bhuva Sva. Tat Savito Varinyam. So all these realms, and the sunshine spreads throughout the Bhumandala. So very interesting. I don't know who the speaker. The conversation in the back, a bit outside. So Prabhupada gave a very nice description, and as we go on through this chapter, there'll be more description of the planetary systems, and of course in the TOVP, once that TOVP becomes more and more finished, we'll have the planetarium, which will open a little bit later, which all different types of models are, showing and explaining the Vedic and the Puranic explanation of the universe from the Vedic and the Purana point of view, and that's on that side of the TOVP, and in the middle, even in the middle, there'll be the deities and everything, but above there'll be as you go in the dome, and you can go in the different floors, and you can view the model of the planetary systems. So much discussion is had. It's not an easy subject matter, especially when we have the information from modern astronomers about what's going on in the universe and their calculations and so on and so forth. And the Vedic, or especially mentioned here in the Puranas, view seems to be quite different from that. So how to put it all together for a devotee is not so easy, but definitely a model. And I remember that you probably can't see from there, but there's many, if you go on Google, you can find many paintings and depictions of that. It shows all the different planetary systems and everything right up to the Satyaloka. Probably can't see from right where you are, but very nice. This one's a very good one. Some are not so good, but this one's a very good one. It shows the Jambudweep and the Bhumandala and the different Varshas, the 7 islands, which is the first verse we read, that created by Priyavrata. Priyavrata was in the line of the Swayambhuva Manu, and he came again. We know the story of Maharaj Priyavrata, in that initially, of course, Swayambhuva Manu, he was the eldest son, and it was expected that he would, when Swayambhuva Manu retired, and that Priyavrata would become the king. But Priyavrata, Narad Muni was speaking to him. Priyavrata thought to do tapasya and do meditation on the Supreme Lord. So he didn't want to take it up. So Maharaj Uttanapada agreed to take the position of king, because Priyavrata had gone away and didn't want to take that up. So we have this whole history here and whole sequence. Maharaj Uttanapada, then when, of course, we know his son was Dhruva Maharaj, who went away feeling neglected by the king, and there's a whole story there that's in the Bhagavatam also. But then when Maharaj Uttanapada retired, of course, Dhruva Maharaj came back as the son to take up the position. All this time, Maharaj Priyavrata was still in the meditation and doing the tapasya. And so Dhruva Maharaj ruled over. He became very perfected. And we read the story there that at the end of his life, he went to the Badrik Ashram and he did tapasya, meditate on the Supreme Lord. And then Vaikuntha Vimana came for him and took him to the Svetadvip, or the pole star, and he changed his body and boarded, and he went there. And then, okay, so then there was no king. And so Priyavrata was asked to come at that time. He didn't readily agree. And even when his father asked him, he was very fixed in his determination. But then Lord Brahma himself came and asked him that in life, one has to do their duty. Doing your duty doesn't mean you have to give up your Krishna consciousness. He gave many different reasons why you should do this. There's a gap now, so you have to please come back and go in your position. So what's described in the verse one of the first verse we read today is about Maharaj Priyavrata going around in his chariot and creating these islands in the Jambudweep area. So this particular depiction here that I held up, it shows the whole Mount Meru in the middle of the Jambudweep, and it's like it's depicted as like a lotus with whirls going all these. According to the story, is that Maharaj Priyavrata didn't like that the sun was shining down, and some in the southern part was less than the northern part, and so he decided that he didn't like that disparity, and so he divided the whole Jambudweep up. He created a chariot. It was like this effulgent chariot, just gigantic chariot, followed the sun around the orbit of the sun. And these are very amazing stories with the wheels of the chariot, as mentioned in this verse today. He created these different islands, and in between the islands are filled up with different oceans. So this is the whole of the Jambudweep. So there's 7 islands or dweepas in Jambudweep, and in the Jambudweep in the middle world is the different varshas. It's getting a bit complicated, but interestingly enough, the descriptions are that everything is based on in the material world also based on the lotus flower, which is the design of the spiritual world. In the Krishna Loka, for example, the realms of the Krishna Loka are based on go in the realm of a lotus flower, with Mathura and Dwarka and Vrindavan in the middle of the world, and Mathura and Dwarka out like that. So and then that expands out. That design concept is expanded out throughout the whole spiritual realm. So this lotus is originally coming from the Supreme Personality of God. The concept of lotus and how everything designed is originally in the spiritual, and so originally in the Krishna Loka, and then it's also this whole design that comes to this world as well. So very interesting. And below, of course, above the Jambudweep, there's as I said, these different planetary systems: Bhuva, Vidyadharas, Siddhas, Gandharvas. They live on the. So there's the Earth realm, and then above that's where the Gandharvas and the Siddhas. They all live there. That's like Upasparga. They're not exactly heaven, but above the Earth. And then the actual Sparga, the heavenly planets, is where all the demigods like King Indra and Agni and Vayu and Chandra and so on and so forth. And then above that, there's other lokas: Mahaloka, Tapaloka, Janaloka, Satyaloka, where Lord Brahma is in the top. So the 7 planetary systems. There's mentioned in this diagram, very nicely done, that the Shishumara and the Muvaloka, Antariksha, all these different things are there. And of course, there are 7 different realms below the Earth, and it's shown here, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Tala, Tala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala, and 7 realms. And below that are the 28 hellish worlds, all depicted here. This is very nicely drawn here and very easy to see. It's one of the better ones. And of course, outside of all this is different layers of elements. Different layers of elements, from starting with earth and then water, then air, ether, and going more bigger and bigger and bigger. 7 shells of the universe. Lord Shiva exists within the universe. He also exists beyond, within one of the shells of the universe. He has his own abode there. And then right at the bottom of the universe is lying Lord Vishnu on Anantasesha. Lakshmi is there in the bottom, lying on the Garbhata ocean. So very nicely done. So we're beginning to read about this. Now in the first verse, which was number 2, the rolling wheels of Maj Priyavrata's chariot created 7 ditches in which the 7 oceans came into existence. So that I described a little bit. You have given a very general description. Kindly fulfill my desire. So the first verse, and then when the mind is fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his external feature made of material modes of nature, that gross universal form is brought to the platform of pure goodness, because a devotee sees it in connection with Krishna. And actually, the energy is coming from Krishna. That Yogamaya internal potency is transformed to the Mahamaya. And so it is Daivi Yesha Gunamayi Mammamaya Duratya. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna calls it divine energy. And he says that Daivi Yesha Gunamayi Mammamaya Duratya Mameva Ye Prapadyati Tamstata Mama Eva Ye Prapadyati Daivi Yesha Gunamayi Mammamaya Duratya Mameva Ye Prapadyati Etam Tarantite. This is the verse. That this divine energy, he calls it divine energy, comprised of the 3 modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. But one who surrenders unto me can very easily cross beyond it. So this is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So he calls it divine because it's emanating from him. It's a transformation of the original spiritual energy, the Yogamaya, that's in the spiritual realm. It's a transformation. But nevertheless, it is divine because it is an emanation. Now, it's considered inferior because it's a temporary, it's manifested temporally. It's not actually, it's eternally existing. The whole Mahatattva is eternally existing, but it's temporarily manifested. So in that sense, it's manifest and it's unmanifest, manifest, unmanifest, and changing all the time. And so in that sense, it's considered inferior, whereas in the Yogamaya, it's continuously existing and expanding more and more. So, but nevertheless, it's connected to Krishna. You can't say it's Maya in one sense, that it's not the topmost reality, but you can't say it is just a completely illusion, and illusion in one sense for the conditioned souls, because they forget the superior energy and the superior position of Krishna. So therefore, we get an illusion affected by this energy. But it's not actually, it exists. And some in the impersonalist line, they say it doesn't exist, it's just an imagination. We're here, we're all imagining our whole existence, where this is just imagination, we're dreaming. We have to wake up. And some philosophers are like that. Wake up and we give you the light, the Shakti. Shakti, come to the Guru, and then he'll give you, and then you'll get the light, and then you'll wake up from the dream and the nightmare of this world. So we have to wake up. So there's very elaborate philosophies based on that concept, that the whole thing, it just doesn't exist. We're thinking we're here, but we're, so when you present it in a very elaborate way, it's quite attractive, and many people follow it. And support it and follow it. So, but it's not like that. According to Vaishnava philosophy, it's not. It's real, Brahma Satyam. But they say Brahma Satyam Jagat Mityam. The Brahman is real, but the Jagat or the Jagat Mitya or Jagan Mitya, that is false. False, doesn't exist. It's an illusion. It doesn't exist. You're dreaming. You have to wake up. wake up out of the dream. But no, Brahman is real and the material world is real. Different energies working in different ways, just like electricity. Electricity is one, but then as it goes down, it can be used to heat, can be used to cool, can be used in so many different ways. It can be transformed. So this is a basic Vaishnava understanding, especially amongst the Gaudiya Vaishnavas and Vaishnava understanding in general. And so therefore, Maharaj Parikshit, of course, Prabhupada mentions here that Sukadeva Goswami instructed Maharaj Parikshit to, when you think of the Lord, think of the universal form, how the Lord is all pervasive, the opulence, just like in Bhagavad Gita, there's one chapter called the opulence, the vibhutis, the opulence, the great things of the universe, the great things in the world. Think of them in connection to Krishna, and then that will be beneficial for you. The Vishwarup is in a form that encompasses everything, just like one universal form was shown to Arjuna. Krishna gave him the eyes to see it, and then so Parikshit Maharaj, think of the Lord, and you see this world, and you connect it to Krishna. I always remember one story when one disciple was walking with Prabhupada, Japa walk on the beach in Los Angeles, and then he went up to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, when I'm walking on the beach, it's sometimes hard to think of Krishna. I'm seeing the people here, and I'm seeing the beach, the sand, everything like that. And, everyone's enjoying, and so I'm getting affected. And Prabhupada actually responded, said, oh, you think like that? I said, I am different. When I see the ocean, I think Krishna. When I see the beach, I think Krishna. When I see the sky, I think Krishna. That you are like that, but I think differently. You see the difference between even ordinary devotee and great devotee. So the devotee, he was saying, I get affected. So this is the position, and Prabhupada does say here, and he goes at the end of his purport. First of all, he says that we should understand quite clearly that what the material universe is and divine energy. We've just been talking about that, and how it works. And for a devotee, if he thinks of it in connection to Krishna, then that is transcendental. That is a transcendental consciousness. And then those things in the world can be used in Krishna's service. Hari Sambandhu Mumukshabhi. Prapanchikarya Buddhya Hari Sambandhi Vasana Mumukshabhi Parityago Vairagyam Paugo Katyate. It is not false. It is not false renunciation. Hari Sambandhi Vastuna, when you think of it in connection with the Supreme Lord, then it is the ultimate reality. So this is how devotees see things. We don't try to push away the material world that some Mayavadis and impersonalists. No, it's illusion. It doesn't exist. We have to wake up, and we don't take anything. We don't acknowledge it even. But Vaishnava, Prabhupada one time he did like this. He said the Mayavadi is pushing everything, pushing. But the Vaishnava is taking everything and using it nicely in Krishna's service. And here Prabhupada gives the a commentary by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in that Hari Sevaya Yaha Haya Anukula Vishaya Baliya Tahara Chage Haya Bula. One should not give up anything connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking it material or enjoyable for the material senses. Don't give it up. Use it in Krishna's service. How to use it in Krishna's service? You have to do under the guidance of the spiritual master and the shastras and the sadhus. How to use it nicely, and we have to be careful. Some things the beginners especially are advised to maybe avoid totally, just like meat eating. So some things in the world we can't say we're going to utilize them and offer them to Krishna. So some things are not offerable for the beginners. And so we follow how to use things in Krishna's service under the guidance, as I said, of the gurus and the sadhus and the shastra, how to utilize things. So how to spread the Krishna consciousness. You know, we can have very novel ideas how to spread the Krishna consciousness, but some things we just can't use to spread the Krishna consciousness. Uh, um, you know, one devotee was making a joke one time. He said that it's so hard to get, especially the Westerners, to come to our programs. I'm trying every different thing. We're only getting a small amount. You know, they're so addicted these days to the sense gratification. And I'm sure if I advertise, you know, come to our program, free beer, there'd be a rush, right? You know, Hare Krishna program, free beer. You have to close the door. There'd be a rush, free beer. Everyone would come. But we can't do that because that's that's something we can't utilize. Although ultimately, and Prabhupada one time said that Krishna says that I'm the taste of the water. And then he went so far one time. Where was it? One time he says, even the man who is like the drunk, if he's drinking the wine and he's thinking this wine comes from Krishna, there's some little benefit there. He's thinking, well, it's not advised you drink the wine or you take the beer. So one should not take it as a general principle. But someone who's addicted to these things, if he wants some benefit, at least think the wine that comes from Krishna at least. This wine I'm drinking comes from Krishna. But generally speaking, especially devotees, we're not advised drink the wine, especially ourselves. So we know in the ancient times the Kshatriyas would have, just like we were reading the other day about the somaras, which is a type of intoxicant, and so on and so forth. So some categories were allowed, but the general principle is no, we don't take. So certain things are not used, but whatever can be used, and whatever we need to do, and Prabhupada says in our preaching work, we deal with so much property, money, books, bought and sold. These all pertain to Krishna consciousness, and they should never be considered material. Sometimes the new bhaktas, I don't want to be going and doing all these mundane things. I want to just do chanting. It's all Krishna consciousness. You have to just see it in the right way. See it in the right way. I always remember one devotee we brought from India as a priest, and he came and complained to me. I was the temple president in Melbourne. He said, I did the puja and I cooked the offering, but now they're asking me to wash the pots. I'm born in Brahmin family, and we are not washing the pots. Someone else is washing the pots. And so I said, well, this is not. We are not a Brahmana. I quoted from Lord Chaitanya, and we are not Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Sudra, Dasa, Anudas. Means that we are the servant of those who are servants of Krishna. So everything in the temple, that is all used in the service of Krishna. This is transcendental activity. So I had to preach to him. But in the end, he agreed to watch the pot. Because these are transcendental pots. These are not ordinary pots, but transcendental pots. So anything, you're cleaning the floor. I remember one time when the Prabhupada was giving a class about Krishna consciousness being the highest yoga, there were some ladies making garlands, and he just stopped and he said, see these ladies here? I regard them as the best of the yogis. Because one is doing the garland, she's thinking I'm making the garland for Krishna. The other one, I'm making the garland for Radha. So they are in the topmost conscious, they are the best of the yogis. But one shouldn't think, oh, it's just a flower garland maker, just sweeping the floor. We saw Prabhupada do all these things, especially in the beginning. He was doing everything. He was cooking, he was serving, he was washing the pots, he was cleaning the floor. He was doing everything, going to the bank, establishing a society, legal matters. But Prabhupada says here, one has to do these things and connect to Krishna consciousness by doing these things. And if one rigidly observes, these things are not outside the realm of the Krishna consciousness. If one rigidly observes the regular principles of chanting 16 rounds of Maha Mantra every day, his dealings with the mature world for the sake of spreading Krishna consciousness, the movement, are not different from the spiritual cultivation of Krishna consciousness. So it's all a question of attitude under guidance. And then Prabhupada did tell us that, you're all in the transcendental position, spreading the Krishna consciousness in your countries, different countries of the world. But sometimes due to the dealing in the material world all around, there may be a slight contamination. So every year, as many as possible, you come to the Holy Dham when we have the festival, Mayapur festival and Vrindavan festival, and you come, there's no outside, they're all the Holy Dham. And so then you can become surcharged again in your Krishna consciousness. So these are very nice verses today. Also, I'd like to bring up that, because I always remember this pastime of Odana Shashti. Today is the anniversary of Odana Shashti, which is generally in India, in the Northern Hemisphere, or in India at least, it's considered the start of the winter season. And Odana Shashti, and then the deities are offered warmer clothes. Of course, over here we're opposite, but the deities are offered warmer clothes because it's becoming more cold. So more woolly clothes, more heavier clothes. And generally what happens is that they get new cloth off of the deity starting on Adhan Shashti. And so, and there's one, and generally the new cloths are washed before they're offered to the deity. That is considered paka. Because they're, even though they're coming new, there's still maybe some contaminant. You wash them and clean them, and then you offer to the deity. But there's one interesting a pastime that happened in Jagannath Puri at the time of Lord Chaitanya, and when Pundarik Vidyanidhi came there to visit Lord Chaitanya on the occasion of Dana Shashti, Pundarik Vidyanidhi was there with Swarup Damodar in the temple, and it is an interesting conversation. Vidyanidhi said, in this part of the country, there is considerable discussion regarding Shruti and Smriti. Yet how is it that the Lord is dressed in an unholy starch clothing? So the pujaris had offered Lord Jagannath and Balaram Subhadra new cloth from the weaver, but not washed. It still had the starch in it. And so one is supposed to wash it. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi had picked up on that. Swarup Damodar replied, perhaps it is the custom of this place. He just answered casually. And then if it is the custom, then where is the fault? Had it not been the wish of the Lord, the king would have forbidden it. Vidyanidhi replied, God can do whatever he likes, but why should his priest attendants put starch clothes on him? Starch cloth is so unholy that the hand which touched it has to be washed. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was on the technicalities. The estate officers do not decide these things. I see that the king also wore starch cloth on his head today. Swarup Damodar said, brother, perhaps there is nothing wrong in using this cloth on the day of Odana Shashti. Because the Lord himself has appeared on this earth as Jagannath Dev, rules and regulations are not applicable to him. Vidyanidhi protested, Jagannath Dev is the Lord, he is omniscient, but can these people be like him? Are they beyond all the rules and regulations? This way the two friends discussed in a jovial mood until reaching their residence and then took a rest. That night Vidyanidhi dreamed that Jagannath and Balaram were very annoyed with him. They slapped Vidyanidhi on the two cheeks and said, I have no caste, and neither do my attendants. It is I who have made the rules which you think there is a deviation from. Weeping, Pundarik Vidyanidhi put his head on the feet of Jagannath and said, O Lord, I have been rightly served according to my offence. Today is very auspicious for me. Your good hand has touched my forehead. I do not know what good deed I performed in my previous birth to have such a benediction. The Lord then disappeared. When Vidyanidhi awoke in the morning, he found that his two cheeks were swollen as a result of the slapping by Sri Jagannath and Balaram. Every morning, Swarup Damodar came to Vidyanidhi's place and they went to the Jagannath Midi for darshan together. That morning, Swarup Damodar arrived as usual, but found Vidyanidhi still lying in bed. When he inquired as to why he was still in bed, Vidyanidhi called him to his side and explained his extraordinary dream. Hearing this and seeing Vidyanidhi's swollen cheeks, Swarup Damodar was overwhelmed with joy. He said, I don't know of any other such instance where the Lord has punished a man in his dream. But today I've seen this with my own eyes. Is there any man so fortunate as you in the three worlds? Swarup Damodar joyfully praised Sri Vidyanidhi as a friend feels delighted at the well-being of his friends. So Swarup Damodar thought himself extremely lucky because of Pundarik Vidyanidhi's fortune. So I just thought I'd tell that story. Very wonderful story. Okay, Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Does anyone have any question or comment? When? Is it? Is it? Sorry?
Yes, this, when we think of this universal form, is it carbon dioxide sheet?
No. Carbon dioxide was lying in the bottom of the universe on the Carbon Ocean, below the lower planetary systems. His abode is there. So the universal form is a kind of a form that is an imaginary form for those who are trying to, not imaginary in one sense, because the Lord manifested to Arjuna. That was one, there are many different universal forms that the Lord, but it appears that Parikshit Maharaj was described by Sukadev Goswami to imagine all the different elements of the universe and imagine how they're connected with the Supreme Lord. So that's the material universe. It's not the form of Garbhodakshaya. His is not Vishwa. He is in another position. You understand that? That explained it already. Okay. All right. Thank you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gold Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo.
His Holiness Ramai Swami I SB.